In a distant part of the galaxy, a powerful alien empire called the Zarathons was known for its brutal conquests. They traveled from planet to planet, leaving fear and destruction in their wake. As their massive ships flew through space, the news of their approach spread quickly. The Zarathons had their sights set on Earth, and their reputation sent chills through many alien races. They were known for their ruthless tactics and overwhelming force, and many were afraid that Earth would be next. On a small human colony on the outskirts of the galaxy, the atmosphere was tense. The settlers lived in simple homes, surrounded by fields of crops. Children played in the dirt while parents worked hard to provide for their families. But now, fear hung in the air like a thick fog. The news of the Zarathons' approach reached the colony, and panic began to spread. "Did you hear? The Zarathans are coming!" one settler exclaimed as he rushed through the streets. "They will destroy us!" The settlers gathered in the town square, their faces pale with fear. Whispers filled the air as they shared stories of the Zarathans' previous attacks on other planets. People spoke of entire civilizations being wiped out, their homes reduced to rubble. As the stories grew darker, so did their hearts. They felt helpless, unsure of how to defend themselves against such a mighty force. In the midst of this chaos stood Captain Sarah Reyes, a former soldier known for her bravery and strong spirit. She watched the fear in her fellow colonists' eyes and felt a fire ignite within her. She had fought in battles before, and she knew that fear could consume a person if they let it. Instead of giving in, she decided to take action. "Everyone listen!" Captain Reyes shouted, her voice cutting through the panic. The crowd turned to her, eyes wide and hopeful. "We cannot let fear control us! We are humans, and we have survived against all odds. If we stand together, we can fight back." The crowd began to murmur, unsure of how to respond. "But how can we fight against the Zarathans?" someone asked. "They have ships and weapons far beyond our own." Captain Reyes stepped forward, her gaze steady. "We may not have their technology, but we have something they don't: heart and courage. We can unite our strength and find a way to defend our home. We cannot let fear win!" Slowly, her words began to resonate with the crowd. The fear in their eyes began to fade, replaced by a flicker of hope. They realized that if they worked together, they could stand a chance. Reyes urged them to gather their resources, sharpen their tools, and prepare for what was to come. They would need to send messages to other colonies asking for help and support. Over the next few days, the settlers worked tirelessly. They repaired old ships, gathered weapons, and trained in combat. Captain Reyes led them, showing them how to use their surroundings to their advantage. She taught them that fighting was not just about strength, it was about strategy, teamwork, and bravery. As the aliens drew nearer, the settlers sent out messages to neighboring colonies, asking for aid. They spread word of the Zarathons' impending attack, and to their surprise, responses began to come in. Other human colonies and even some alien races who had suffered under the Zarathans' tyranny started to respond. They saw this as an opportunity to unite against a common enemy. Days turned into nights, and the humans prepared for the fight of their lives. Captain Reyes stood on a hill overlooking the colony, her heart swelling with pride. The once trembling settlers had transformed into a determined force. They had chosen to stand bold against the shadow looming over Earth. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the land, Reyes gathered everyone for a final meeting. "Tomorrow we will face our fears together. No matter what happens, we will show the Zarathans that we are not afraid." Cheers erupted from the crowd. In that moment, they were no longer just a group of settlers, they were warriors ready to defend their home. They stood together, united in their resolve, knowing that the battle for Earth had only just begun. As the sun rose over the human colony, the air was filled with a sense of urgency and determination. Captain Sarah Reyes stood at the front of the training grounds, watching as the settlers practiced their combat skills. They were learning quickly, and she felt a surge of pride in their progress. Each day, they trained harder, forging bonds that would strengthen their fight against the incoming alien threat. News of their preparations spread to nearby colonies. One by one, messages of support poured in. Humans from different colonies sent ships filled with supplies, weapons, and even skilled fighters. The settlers were no longer alone. They were becoming part of a larger alliance. As the humans united, they gained confidence and hope. The troops, a mix of humans and Viridians, lined up behind her, weapons at the ready. Their hearts raced, but they stood tall, knowing that they were fighting for their homes and loved ones. Reyes took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. Stay focused. We will use our numbers and our cleverness to outsmart them. Let's show them what we can do. As the enemy ships descended, they unleashed a wave of smaller attack drones. The drones swarmed down, filling the sky like a dark cloud. The Allied forces responded quickly, firing their weapons at the incoming threat. Explosions rocked the air as drones burst into flames, but more kept coming. "Hold your ground!" Reyes shouted. "Aim for the ones that break through our lines." The humans and Viridians fought side by side, their training kicking in. They moved as one unit, covering each other and communicating in shouts and signals. Captain Reyes noticed a group of Viridian warriors working together to take down a drone that had broken through the line. Their teamwork was impressive, and she felt a surge of pride. But the battle was tough. The Zarathons were relentless. As the drones were destroyed, the main ships began firing their weapons, sending beams of energy down toward the ground. The first blast hit near the command center, sending debris flying and causing panic. "Stay calm!" Reyes yelled, trying to keep her troops focused. "We can't let them shake us!" As she rallied her forces, she spotted Kale, the Viridian leader, across the battlefield. He was directing his warriors with skill, ensuring they were organized and ready for each attack. Reyes admired his bravery and ability to remain calm under pressure. Suddenly, a loud explosion shook the ground, and Reyes turned to see a group of Zarathan soldiers emerging from a landing craft. They were tall, armored beings, their weapons glinting menacingly. The Allied forces faced them, weapons drawn, and a tense silence fell over the battlefield. "Here they come!" Kale shouted, raising his sword high. "Fight with honor!" As the Zarathan soldiers charged, the humans and Viridians held their ground. Reyes felt a rush of adrenaline as she joined her team in the front lines. The clash of weapons rang out, and the air was filled with the sounds of battle. She fought with everything she had, feeling the weight of her people's hopes on her shoulders. The fight was fierce and chaotic. Reyes struck down one of the enemy soldiers, her heart racing. But there were too many, and soon the tide began to turn. The Zarathans were powerful and well-trained, pushing the Allied forces back. Reyes could see fear creeping into the eyes of her fighters. "Don't give up!" she shouted, fighting her way through the fray. "Remember why we're here!" In that moment, a surge of energy swept through the Allied forces. Inspired by Reyes's words, they rallied together once more. They began to fight with renewed strength, using the surroundings to their advantage. They set traps and created barriers, surprising the Zarathan soldiers with their clever tactics. After a brutal struggle, the Allied forces finally managed to push back the enemy. Reyes could see the Zarathans retreating, confusion spreading through their ranks. The humans and Viridians cheered, their voices rising in victory. They had fought hard, and against all odds, they had gained the upper hand. As the smoke cleared, Captain Reyes took a moment to catch her breath. The battlefield was a mess, but they had done it. They had faced the Zarathans and shown them that humans would not back down. This battle was just the beginning, and the fight for their home was far from over. Reyes looked at her allies, pride swelling in her chest. "We did it! This is just the start. Together we can face anything!" With that, a new wave of determination washed over them, and they prepared for the challenges ahead. The victory at the first clash had ignited a fire in the hearts of the Allied forces. Captain Sarah Reyes and her team felt a renewed sense of hope, but they knew the fight was far from over. The Zarathans would not back down easily, and their forces were still out there, waiting to strike again. In the days following the battle, Reyes worked tirelessly to prepare for the next encounter. The command center buzzed with activity as humans and Viridians discussed their strategies. Reyes and Kale met every day, planning their next move, but the weight of their task pressed heavily on them. One evening, as they studied the latest reports from scouts, Kyle looked up. "Sarah, we need to take the fight to them. We can't wait for them to attack again. If we show them that we are not afraid, we can turn the tide of this war." Reyes considered his words. They needed to be bold. The Zarathans were confident after their first clash. If they could strike at the heart of the enemy, it might shake their resolve. "You're right. But we must be smart about it. We need a plan that allows us to gather our strength while surprising them." The following days were filled with preparation. The Allied forces gathered their best fighters, including skilled Viridian warriors and brave human volunteers. They trained together, honing their skills and rehearsing the new plan. As the sun set over the horizon, they set out, moving under the cover of darkness. Their target was a Zarathon supply camp located on the outskirts of the colony. Reyes led the charge, her heart racing with excitement and fear. This was a chance to strike back and weaken their enemy. As they approached the camp, they could see the flickering lights of the Zarathon ships and hear the chatter of soldiers. "Remember, we move quietly and strike quickly," Reyes whispered to her team. "We aim to cause chaos and retreat before they can mount a proper defense." As they crept closer, the tension in the air thickened. Reyes raised her hand, signaling for them to halt. She could see the supply tents filled with weapons and food supplies. It was a treasure trove for their cause. With a deep breath, Reyes signaled the attack. The Allied forces surged forward, surprising the Zarathon guards. Chaos erupted as the humans and Viridians fought fiercely. They moved like a well-oiled machine, covering each other as they took down the enemy. Reyes spotted a group of Zarathon soldiers attempting to regroup. "Let's split up," she shouted to Kale. "You take the left, I'll handle the right." Kale nodded, and they quickly moved into action. Reyes fought with all her might, adrenaline surging through her veins. Each strike felt like a step closer to freedom. She noticed her allies working together, using the tactics they had practiced. Their unity gave them strength, and they pushed deeper into the camp. However, the Zarathons quickly realized they were under attack. They fought back with intensity, and soon the camp was filled with sounds of blaster fire and the clash of weapons. Reyes felt the heat of battle surround her, but she kept her focus. Suddenly, she spotted a Zarathon commander rallying his troops. If he was allowed to organize a counterattack, they would be in serious trouble. Reyes knew she had to act fast. "Cover me!" she yelled to her team and charged toward the commander. The Zarathon soldiers tried to block her path, but Reyes fought through them. With determination in her eyes, she finally reached the commander, their eyes locking for a brief moment. In that instant, Reyes felt a surge of courage. She raised her weapon and fired. The blast hit the commander squarely, sending him crashing to the ground. The sight of their fallen leader sent shockwaves through the Zarathon ranks. Reyes watched as confusion spread among the enemy soldiers. They faltered, and in that moment of uncertainty, the Allied forces seized their chance. "Push forward!" Kale shouted, rallying the troops. The Allies advanced with renewed vigor, overwhelming the disoriented Zarathons. The camp became a whirlwind of movement as the humans and Viridians fought with everything they had. As the last of the Zarathon soldiers fell, the Allied forces erupted in cheers. They had done it. They had struck a significant blow against their enemy. Reyes stood at the center of the camp, panting and exhausted, but filled with a sense of triumph. "This is our turning point," she declared to her team, her voice ringing with excitement. "We have shown the Zarathans that we will not be defeated. Together we can rise above anything they throw at us." The Allied forces cheered once more, their spirits soaring. They gathered the supplies, knowing this victory would strengthen their fight. As they made their way back to the colony, Reyes felt a spark of hope ignite in her heart. They had turned the tide, and the battle for their future was just beginning. The sun rose brightly over the colony as Captain Sarah Reyes surveyed the aftermath of their victory. The supply camp, now under their control, had brought not only much-needed resources but also a renewed sense of hope. The air buzzed with excitement as humans and Viridians worked side by side, gathering weapons and supplies to prepare for the next phase of their struggle against the Zarathons. Reyes stood in the center of the command center, her heart swelling with pride. She could see the changes in her team. The fear that had once gripped them was slowly replaced by determination and unity. They had proven to themselves that they could stand against a powerful enemy. Now they needed to build on this momentum. "We must use what we've gained wisely," Reyes said, addressing her team. "This victory is just the beginning. We have the strength of our alliance, and we need to plan our next steps carefully." Kale, the Viridian leader, nodded in agreement. "With the supplies we have, we can strengthen our defenses and improve our training. We should also reach out to other nearby colonies. If we can unite them, we will have a stronger front against the Zarathons." Reyes thought about the neighboring settlements. Many were still in fear after the first clash. "That's a great idea, Kale. But we need to convince them that we can win this fight. We must show them that the Zarathons can be defeated." Over the next few days, the Allied forces worked tirelessly to fortify their position. Reyes organized training exercises, blending human and Viridian combat techniques. The soldiers learned from one another, sharing their skills and experiences. Reyes often found herself sparring with Kyle, admiring his fluid movements and agility. Their bond grew stronger, built on mutual respect and trust. As they trained, news of their victory spread to nearby colonies. Some were eager to join, inspired by the bravery of the humans and Viridians. Others remained hesitant, worried about the power of the Zarathans. Reyes knew they needed to act fast to sway the undecided. "We need to hold a gathering," Reyes suggested. "Let's invite leaders from other colonies. We can share our story and show them what we have achieved together." Kale agreed, and the team began preparations. They set up a large tent in the center of the colony and sent out invitations to neighboring leaders. The day of the gathering arrived, and Reyes felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. This was a crucial moment for their future. As the leaders arrived, Reyes took a deep breath. They came from different backgrounds, some humans, some Viridians, and others from races Reyes had never seen before. She welcomed them warmly, and the atmosphere was filled with hope and anticipation. "Thank you all for coming," Reyes began, her voice steady. "We stand here united, not just as humans and Viridians, but as allies fighting for our homes and our future. We have proven that we can defeat the Zarathans together." Kale stepped forward, his presence commanding attention. "In our recent battle, we showed that fear does not define us. We have strength in our unity, and together we can push back the invaders. But we cannot do it alone. We need your help." Reyes saw the spark of interest in the eyes of some leaders. She pressed on, sharing stories of their victories and the bravery of their soldiers. She spoke of the resources they had gained and how they could defend each other. Slowly, the mood in the tent shifted. Questions arose and discussions sparked among the leaders. Some expressed concerns, but others voiced their willingness to join the fight. Reyes felt a surge of hope as she saw unity beginning to take shape. By the end of the gathering, several leaders pledged their support. They agreed to form a coalition, working together to protect their colonies and prepare for future battles. The excitement in the room was palpable. Reyes could feel the momentum building, and it filled her with energy. With their newfound allies, the coalition set to work, fortifying defenses and pooling resources. As they trained together, Reyes noticed a change in the atmosphere. The fear that had once gripped their communities was transforming into determination and strength. Each day, they grew more prepared for the challenges ahead. One evening, as Reyes stood on a hill overlooking the colony, she felt a sense of pride in what they had built. The sky was painted with vibrant colors, mirroring the hope blossoming within her. They had come together against all odds, and now they were ready to face whatever the Zarathans might throw at them. The future felt bright. Reyes understood that their fight was not just for survival, but for a new beginning. They would forge a path forward, united and unyielding. With courage and cooperation, they would shape a bold new future, one where fear would no longer hold them back. Together, they would show the galaxy that humans and their allies were a force to be reckoned with.